Thanks, everyone. I appreciate being here today. Thank you for sticking out with me. Actually, the other session sounded really interesting too, so now I'm kind of torn because I would have liked to have gone to that as well. But what I'm going to talk to you about is what we're attempting to do at our institution, Eastern Illinois University, which is to kind of move into a self-submission model. So it's going to be talking, basically giving you some kind of broad strategies, but also some detailed actions that we've taken. And you might wonder, like, okay, why is this slide starting out with these two cats play fighting? Well, one is basically these are my cats, so I like to see them. But also anything involving faculty, as we all kind of know, is like herding cats, right? So this is essentially kind of what we're starting out with, is getting faculty to self-submit into our repository is a challenge. So I thought this was a great image for that. All right, so a couple caveats. First of all, this project is a work in progress. Basically, I started it last spring, and so this is you're going to get the tale of how much I've accomplished in about 7 months or so. And also, the other caveat is that your mileage may vary. I'm coming from a regional comprehensive university of about 8,000 students. We have about 400 faculty. So that is going to play into a lot of what my strategies are and what I'm doing. So it may work for your institution, or parts of it may work, parts of it may not. Your mileage may vary. So speaking of mileage, let's talk about my mileage. And so what I'm going to talk about here is give you some context of why are we moving to this self-submission model. And, or another way to maybe put it is to say my eras. So if you are on TikTok, and here's our lovely Taylor Swift here, you notice that people start talking about eras, like I'm in my graduation era, I'm in this era, that era, and I was like, what the hell is going on with this? And so then I usually try to investigate social media and find out. So I thought, well, this is my eras, okay, because it was about her eras tour. So my first one is 2010, when I first started at Eastern. I was their first institutional repository librarian. I was young and naive. And, you know, before anything else happened, it was just such a positive way to look forward to the future. And initially, it really was. Our first 4 years, we had our explosive growth period. So this is our repository, the Keep. So we basically developed a scanning center. After I started, we had 5 different scanning stations. I had 1 full-time library operations assistant. I had 2 half-times library specialists. And we had 12 student scanners. And in the case of 4 years, we added 63,000 items to our repository. So that was my goal. It's just really unusual, explosive growth. But then, I don't know if you heard it, there's a little explosion sound there. This is our keep calm and carry on. And here I've had this picture of Winston Churchill. And essentially what happened was, part of it was unique, part of it are things happening to everyone. What was unique was a state budget crisis in 2016 in the state of Illinois. And our institution had 1 year where we did not get money from the state at all, no money at all. And we're supposed to be a public institution. So that led to a number of things. We had a staffing decrease, which led to I now have a 1/3 time civil service support person. I have 1 student scanner. So you can see the collapse that has happened. But there have been other issues like COVID that's affected everyone, et cetera. So many institutions are feeling this kind of collapse. We also had an equipment decrease. So we used to have a library technology services section. Our administration, after the budget crisis, said, why does the library need its own technology? You'll just use ITS. We essentially lost our library server, which then complicates batch uploading. So that was a big change all of a sudden. But during this time, we added 24,000 items. It's not too bad, but again, it's not where we were. And so we're moving into the next phase, which is trying to maintain sustained growth. So whether we will ever get support staff back is an open question, but how can we keep growing in a way that will work? And so we did reach 100,000 items last spring, which we did a big to-do about, and thank you. But you're going to see that there's a question there that says maybe. I'm going to talk about that later. But so part of our strategy here is make the transition to self-submit. And how do we make that happen such that I'm not the only one adding stuff to the repository. Our faculty are, our students are, we're trying to get to that point. Wrapped up in this is our transition to Pure for EGS. We were an institution that had selected works, so we were faced with the option of you're going to lose selected works and just lose it, or you could go to Pure for EGS. We opted to go for Pure for EGS. So I'm going to be talking about that transition as well. I'd like to get a little bit of a survey here. How many people have got Pure for EGS? A few. So some of that might be interesting to you. Okay. So also, Elsevier our Digital Commons came up with the local batch upload. Thank you, Elsevier people. Mwah, mwah, thank you so much. That really, seriously, that saved my bacon, because once we lost our server, we couldn't do batch uploads. This came up, it made us able to do that again. It's just, so, thank you so much. All right, so broad strategies here. Number one, really just simplify the process and try to entice faculty and students into submitting to the IR. So one of the things that we're working on here is a more graphic presentation. So this is our most recent homepage for the Keep. Now it's a bit more graphic, it's a bit more enticing, inviting people in here. It's also creating some touch points for 2 of our new digital platforms. And essentially we're just trying to kind of draw people in with that more visible presentation there. So the other part of it is I have a new dean that started a couple years ago. And whenever you have a new dean or a new faculty or anybody like that, it's fresh eyes, right? It's somebody comes in from the outside. And so he came in. He used to be a digital collections librarian. So this is all his area. And so he's very excited about it. And he did not have digital commons before. So one of the things that he was saying is, why can't I find this particular page in the Keep? So we have a library student awards we do every year. And he was using the Keep search, the Solar search. And so basically, he would search for library awards, and he would get this page, and he was expecting the home page for that award to show up on Solar. Now, I know you can click on any of these and navigate to that home page, but this was where he's kind of like, why is that not at the top? So we started thinking about, okay, what are ways we can address that? One is putting in on our IR a Google site search. So we have a Google search the Keep on our page, which now, if this is the same search, but you'll see that that homepage does show up in the search results there. He was happy with that. That was great. If you decide to do a Google site search of your IR, contact me, because that coding takes a little tweaking. If you just put the initial code up, it affects the Solar search. So it needs to be massaged a little bit. The other thing that we did was an A to Z communities list, so you can just go through the A to Z, find the different communities, and that made it easier to find things. So that's part of it, making it easier to find content. The other part of it is making a one-stop shop for the authors. So we created this page, which is for faculty. And what we wanted to do was give the faculty, like, they can click on the Submit Your Work button, big blue button here. And what I tell faculty when I introduce this to them is, this works for everything except images. So it'll work for your gray literature, your video podcasts, video files, whatever. You just click that big blue Submit, you have one upload form, and that's all you have to do. Because what I do on the back end is I filter it then to their department faculty page. So we set this up, and of course, instantly, we started getting graduate students coming to this page and depositing their thesis as if they were faculty. So that's why we have the graduate part that we added above it. So that's to kind of entice the faculty, make it really, really easy to submit. We also wanted to entice students. And the way that we're doing that is this program that we're calling Student Scholar Selfies. This is in our menu on our homepage. So the idea here is, you encourage your students to take a selfie of themselves in a classroom or in a lab or painting or drawing or what have you. And because it's a selfie, I'm trying this experiment of using a QR code. And I was told by our sales rep that we're the only digital commons site using a QR code, so I'll let you know how it goes. But the idea here is, they'll take their selfie, they'll scan that code, they'll upload their selfie. They have an even simpler upload form to basically just say, who's your teacher, what is the class, what are you doing in this picture? And so we're hoping that that will get the students who love taking selfies kind of into this habit of doing this. It also gets them in the habit of thinking of themselves as scholars. So that was another part. So this is broad strategy one, simplify the process. These are the different steps that were taken for both faculty and students to do that. One thing about the student selfies is that it also leads to our first new platform, which is digital exhibits. So we show this to faculty, and they really love this, and they're like, oh, this is so cool. We can put our student posters up there. The student scholar selfies can go up there. So it's a great way to promote this new platform as well, which leads to my broad step two. Wear out your shoe leather. So again, your mileage may vary. You know, you might be someone who can bike along the edge of the cliff with this, or you might be somebody who's going to go right off the cliff because it doesn't work. So working at a regional comprehensive, there's a couple things about that. Personal relationships are key when you work at a regional comprehensive, and the hierarchy structure is much flatter. So you're able to leverage that. You're able to leverage those personal relationships, get around, talk to faculty, encourage them to encourage their students. So that really has really been working for us. Now, if you're at an R1, perhaps that would be a bit more challenging. And also, that is a double-edged sword. Personal relationships can cut both ways. So I can go to any faculty member on campus, stop by their office, talk to them about submitting their content, and I have that relationship with them, and that works. But they can also say, oh, well, Todd, I'm so busy, Todd, and here's my CV, and can you do this for me? So, again, it kind of works both ways. So, jumping back to the beginning era, 2010, 2012, I feel like I'm kind of reintroducing the IR by going through this process. So I want to talk a little bit about introducing the IR in the first place. So that involved a lot of presentations, a lot of office visits. Back in 2010, 2011, it was, what is an IR? And I don't know how I feel about open access. And so that's kind of what I was working with right there. My taglines were, send me your CV, I'll help you do this, I'll help you get it arranged, so that's moderated submission, and make Googling yourself more fun, which is how I tried to kind of hook faculty in. Well, this is one of the things I would do. I would create these reports called success and service reports per department. The first 2 pages are kind of a rah-rah, look at everything you're doing, this is so cool. And I would use the pin maps to show where faculty, papers were being downloaded to which institution, and the faculty member that was having papers downloaded to the Kremlin was like super excited about it. So, it was kind of fun. And then pages 3 and 4 were the success part, where I could say, or the service part, where I could say, here's what we can also do for you. So that was one of the things I was doing for marketing. The other thing was I created this book, which is the Keep at 2, so that was 2 years into our repository growth. This was a book that we published to show the stakeholders like our board of trustees, our foundation. And so again, a lot of this is like rah-rah, look at our success. That last bottom image there on the right was what I call negative reinforcement promoting, where essentially I could show that chart to colleges and say, here's the departments that are participating, and of course the implication is, and here's the departments that are not participating. So then the deans would kind of lean on those departments to participate. So that actually works pretty well. So for the 2024 and onward era, what I'll be looking at is really pushing this self-submit by emphasizing repeatedly how simple it is and tying it in with the student scholars, which the faculty are already interested in, and pushing the QR code. We also have an open access policy, because in the state of Illinois, we are required as a public institution to do that. Our policy, I leveraged that to say that every faculty had to have a selected works profile. So it will be saying every faculty has to have a profile in our Scholars at EIU, which is our Pure for EGS. So I was able to kind of work on that as well. And I'm really hoping to also entice them with this, which is the Scholars at EIU. This is our Pure for EGS instance. So I've been emphasizing the networks, which are called Force, but I call them the web, because to me they look like a web. So I will show a particular department this, and I'll blow the web up and say, look at all your collaborations everywhere. This really shows your impact. This is great. I'll also show them they can jump to their Scopus faculty profile, and really gives a sense of what I'm calling, it's your digital footprint. It's your research, the student theses you advise, all of this. And so this has actually been going over fairly positively as well. How am I doing on time? I tend to talk fast, so I was hoping that would be good. All right, so step 3 is get to the tipping point. All right, so if you are not familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's article about the tipping point, essentially the bottom line is you nudge and nudge and nudge and nudge, and you move that Overton window until you get to the point where suddenly everything works. All right, so I want to also talk a little bit about some of the hiccups we've seen, and this is what I call the butterfly effect, this one. This was a very popular guide in our repository that Paul Switzer did, and what I had forgotten was the record in the keep pointed to the actual item on selected works. So when selected works went away, that went away. And so I had Paul contacting me beginning of the fall and saying, hey, wait, what happened to this? And by the way, it's showing up on this brand new website that I don't even know what that is, which was our Scholars at EIU site. So be aware of that. If you're making that transition and you are pointing to things in selected works, you have to be cautious of that. Also, this was another factor. We had what looked like a loss of dashboard stats. So when you've got selected works, those stats can tie in with your digital commons. And remember that I said, oh, we did 100,000 uploads. Well, this picture is our new president at our Eastern Illinois University during his investiture, during a moment when he got emotional during his speech. That was our 100,000th upload. I mean, you can't ask for better PR, right? That was just really, really fantastic. So we made a big to-do about it, big splash in the media and everything. And then when I had to upload or update our stats for our annual report, this is after selected works got shut off, and suddenly our stats looked like they had dropped. And so then this kind of became an issue because like, wait, we're not at 100,000 anymore. What's happening here? So we've been working with that to kind of get that all figured out. That's been another wrinkle. The ingest process, selected works versus Pure for EGS. I'm finding the Pure for EGS is in many ways much better. We can upload from Scopus, we can upload Crossref if you have the DOI. We're able to upload content from Digital Commons. We are having problem with EBSCOhost working, and that has to do with our single sign-in for our campus. I need to figure that out yet. So the one thing where I say the ingest is maybe worse is with selected works, I could take those faculty profiles, plop them onto the faculty research page for the department, and highlight, here's the faculty. I don't currently have that with this integration. And so how important that is, I'm not sure, but I'm really hoping for more of a flow from Pure for EGS back to Digital Commons. And I have to say, the loss of the author dashboard from losing selected works, that has been a blow, because that was a big selling point for us to get faculty to do stuff. They still get a dashboard if their content is in Digital Commons. And so that's why I'm concerned about this, getting stuff from Pure for EGS into Digital Commons, or somehow get the dashboard into Pure for EGS. So those are some of the wrinkles. Another wrinkle, of course, is faculty resistance. I have this mantra for faculty: no time, no price, no penalty. And this is what this means. Faculty have no time. That's the bottom line. They have no time. So if you ask faculty to do something, do they get a reward for it, or are they penalized for not doing it? And if your answer to both of those questions is no, 9 times out of 10, they aren't going to do it, right? So that's kind of what I have to work with. This is our celebration of scholarship. We have this every fall. So every fall, faculty are supposed to fill in this form to say, here's the articles they did, here's the exhibits they did, here's the performances they did. And we had about 150 entries. I used Scopus to find an additional 49 and was able to get us up to like 209. So that shows you that a good third of our faculty just aren't bothering to do this, right? All right. So here's another thing. It's just going to take time. Time to move that Overton window over, nudging it to the point where if I go back to 2010, it was moving it from what is an IR and I'm threatened by OAA to about 2 years later, oh, the Keep is fantastic. It's a great resource for the campus, right? So that's what we're trying to move. So now I'm trying to move this. Oh, the library does that. They put all that stuff into the repository too. The repository is ours. It's mine. It belongs to the campus. We need to add stuff to it. And then this is just a little blurb about tipping points. If you can, position yourself as what Gladwell would call a social influencer. I am lucky in that I've been able to serve several terms as our chair of faculty senate. I have shamelessly leveraged that to promote the KEEP. So for example, if the chair of faculty senate contacts the chair of a department and says, I want to come and talk to you, that has a bit more heft than if the institutional librarian says, I want to come and talk to you at your faculty meeting. So I have played on that, trust me. And again, just little nudges to get that broad acceptance. And just keeping in mind that context matters. So we're trying to get to the point where faculty would say to each other, why wouldn't you add stuff to your profile versus like, why would you? That's what we're trying to get to. How much time did I take? 10 minutes. Awesome. Good. And this is what I'm trying to get to with the cats, where they are at this point of being all cuddly with each other. The one on the left is the younger one. He's the brat. He was the one who was always instigating all those fights. But again, thank you very much. And I'm happy to take any questions if anybody might have any.
Very important first question. What are your cats' names?
All right. So the younger one is named Kohaku, which is Japanese for amber. He has a little amber color. Yes. And the one on the right, the tuxedo, his name is Gus. He's the older cat.
Lovely. Lovely.
Thank you. I figure you can never go wrong with cats. Roger?
No, you can't.
Did you have another one? No. Oh, okay.
Oh, so it's me now?
Yeah.
All right, so I think you're a very brave person to take this route. But I'm curious as to, you said you've simplified the intake process. I'm curious about authority control. Like, what have you done to ensure that what you're getting is going to be worth putting up into the public world? Because we struggle with the faculty member can't spell the right words, or they can't get their title right in their journal articles. So I'm curious what you've done.
So basically, it will come to me first. And so I have the opportunity to do a bit of light editing. I'm not that concerned with faculty work. I mean, if it's something like a misspelling or what have you, I would just shoot it back to them, or I'll say, hey, I need to edit this. The big concern on our campus is with the student submissions, right? And so for the student submissions, I use the back end, the review system, where part of when they add content, they have to put in a professor name or an advisor name. And that person gets the email notification, hey, this has been submitted, take a quick look at it before it gets approved and published. Does that answer that?
Yeah, so your process, it's still mediated. You're still mediating.
It's still mediated on the back end before it gets published, but on the front end to get stuff just added is where we're trying to get the self-submit. Yep.
Can I ask a question? So can you tell us more about...
Where are you? Okay, sorry.
Right. Can you tell us more about the selfies that you were talking about? I didn't understand how that got content into the IR to take a selfie.
Okay, so basically the idea here is that faculty would promote their students to say, hey, when you're doing this painting for my class, if you want to do the student scholar selfies thing, you just take your phone, snap a selfie of yourself doing the painting, and then scan it over that QR code on the Keep, and then you can upload it via that, because the QR code takes them to the upload form, and so that's how they get it in there. Yes, yes, yes. And the reason why I went with this method is because students are taking selfies all the time around campus. I see it constantly, and there's a big push on campus to think of themselves as scholars. So I'll tie the two together. Hopefully, it'll be something students buy into and find very enjoyable. Crossing fingers, hoping it works.
Hi, and
Hi.
I'm going to tag on to Roger's question. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, from your back end, how many of your metadata is like required? So like, forget even just editing, but like getting them to include enough information that beyond like, I'm the author, I'm the title, but like I can see if I would want them to have like abstract or a description or something else. But if you make it required, then suddenly they're not going to want to do it. But if you don't make it required, then do you get that information?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are we talking faculty or student work?
Faculty.
Faculty. On that end, I usually I will tend to make more fields required, but I also try to simplify it in having drop downs. So for example, we do Creative Commons licensing for everything that goes in. That's a drop down that they can choose from, and the selecting their department drop down. So I just try to simplify it as much as possible, automate as much as possible. I don't make the abstract required. I just kind of leave that up to them. But I am also working on the other end. I'm working on the Pure Free GS with Scopus. And so I'm trying to kind of lead by example as well. When I add content to their Scopus profile, or from Scopus to their Pure Free GS profile, I've got the abstract there. And so it's kind of trying to say, and when I've been pushing this, when I've been going to the departments and talking about it, I've been saying, this is a question of data. And the more data we have in there, the better. The more accurate the data we have in there, the better. The better your profile looks. And they, I'm still playing on ego with faculty, I have to admit. So, it works. So I think that's a way to partially leverage it. But I do agree with you that if you make too many fields required, they'll tend to kind of drop off. Any other questions? I want to say, if there's no other questions, if I could just wrap up with this. I haven't presented since before COVID. I was really nervous. So thank you for being in my office for that. Thanks so much.